Okay, I'm at the a rather obscure bar somewhere in the labyrinth that is the O2 in Bristol.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to Brandon from one of my favourite bands out of Canada at the moment, the legendary Monster Truck.
All right.
Welcome to England. Welcome to the BCFM Sunday Rockshow.
Thank you.
How's the tour going?
Tour's going great. Shows are going really good. Great reception for us. We're finding that we have fans of our own who are coming out to the shows, so that's surprising and awesome.
And the Vista Chino guys treating you all right?
They're treating us great.
I think it'd be nice enough, fellas. Not spoken to them yet. I'm doing that a bit later, but
yeah, no, they're very nice. They're pretty quiet. They keep to themselves a lot, but they've been more than nice to us. So
cool. Right now, you're from Hamilton, which we just explained before we started the interviews, kind of between Toronto and Niagara Falls.
Exactly.
There's a lot of good stuff coming out of Canada at the moment. I seem to be getting through my inbox nearly every week. I've got a new Canadian band sending me stuff.
Yeah.
Why do you think you've got this big kind of resurgence of really good Canadian rock and metal at the moment?
I'm not really sure. I think everybody knows now that if you're doing good in Canada, if you get up to the caliber of those Canadian bands that are doing really well, that you can go everywhere else, and so that raises the caliber of everybody. When you have a few bands that succeed, it makes everybody know that they can do it as well.
Right, and okay, so talk about yourselves. Tell me the story of Monster Truck. How did it all come about, you know?
Well, we were all friends for a while. I'd never met Jon, our singer, but him and Jeremy grew up together. They played in punk bands and metal bands when they were younger. And then Steve and Jeremy were in a band, and they used to tour. That band used to tour with my old band, and we lived close, and we were drinking buddies. And about 4.5 or 5 years ago, we had nothing to do. None of our bands were putting out any albums. We were just kind of hanging around home for the summer, and we decided, let's get our rock and roll fill. Let's play the music that we all love. And those other bands we were more of sidemen in those bands. They weren't really we weren't the leaders of that band. So this is the time when we made our own band, and it was just for fun for a good year or two, and then our manager came along and said, guys, this is special, we got to do something with it. We said, wait a minute, this is our beer drinking band. We got to talk about this first. And so we talked about it and said, do we want to give it a shot? Do we want to go and try to play this crazy game of music industry? And so he said, yeah, sure, fuck it, let's go, and let's see what happens. Let's make sure it's on our own terms. And here we are, that much later, and it seemed to be working out.
Now, your first couple of EPs were your self-financed release stuff, wasn't it?
Yes.
Monster Truck and the Brown EP.
Yes.
How important were they to developing your sound?
Very important. I mean, those were kind of points on the map of where we were traveling as a band. We weren't really sure where we wanted to go. We still don't. We're just trying to stay true to ourselves. And so, yeah, we knew we needed to put something out and give to the people at each of those times, and that's what they were.
And you've got a really interesting sound. It's all like very old school. Is that a conscious decision, or is that just something that develops? Yeah.
It's kind of half and half. We were conscious that we wanted to play rock and roll like what we thought of rock and roll, and we grew up with Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and Grand Funk Railroad and all these old rock and roll bands from back in the heyday. And we always wanted to have that sound to it, but of course, being the age we are, we still had a modern aspect of. We grew up in bands that had a modern thing, so we tried to marry the two, but also stay dedicated to the old sound of rock and roll. And so I think it just comes across as that.
Right. Now, I've noticed the last couple of months, my inbox has been packed with lots and lots of good, loosely described as stoner rock.
Right.
And are you aware of this kind of because I say we've got Vista Chino in the background, kind of sound checking. Is this the kind of thing that you're aware of, a kind of resurgence of interest? Because I'm thinking you've got bands coming through recently like Stone Axe, yourselves, Moz Generator, over the last few years begin to come quite, Fenn's another one. I think they're Canadian, aren't they, Fenn?
I don't know those guys.
No, well, but you've got all these bands coming through doing all this sort of stuff. Do you think this is kind of a resurgence of interest or a passing fad?
Well, I think the stoner moniker has always been there, and it's been an underground thing. And now you have these new bands. I know us specifically. We just say rock and roll. People put that stoner rock thing because there was never rock and roll before these bands started breaking through. Rock and roll was some sort of new metal, some new Americanization that we don't believe is rock and roll. So I think people, when they hear these bands that don't sound like that rock and roll, they try to put a moniker on it of something else that exists, and stoner rock was the closest thing, where the riff is the main part of the song. That's the stoner rock ideal that comes into our sound, but we don't particularly call ourselves that. We just like to call ourselves rock and roll.
Yeah. Okay, now you've got your new album out. Was it Felicity? Curiosity, sorry, that's right, yeah. Tell us a little bit about how the album came together.
Well, we knew, we had released our EP, the second EP, the Brown EP, and our manager's label in Canada, Dine Alone, decided they wanted to release that. So, because we were going on tour and we wanted to have something to sell and something to promote. And so, as soon as we made that and it came out and people started appreciating it in Canada, we realized, okay, now we're going to have to make a full-length album. And so we had a bunch of the songs already, and then we knew the album was coming up, so we started writing more and thinking about it. And it was a really long process of getting the final result. We recorded it twice, and we threw out the first one, and it took about a year and a half all in all before it was done to the way we liked it. So yeah, it was just long, hard work, and just really trying to get those sounds like we knew we wanted to hear them, and finally we got there after all that hard work.
Yeah. Now, so you saw you still got a few more dates to do in Britain.
Yes.
And then you're back to Europe again, aren't you?
Yep.
And then where'd you go after that?
Well, the tour goes there's probably 6 more German dates, and then it does Poland, Switzerland, Austria, one show in Italy, a show in Belgium, and a show in Netherlands. Then we go home and we do our Canadian headline tour in December.
Yeah, I was looking at the flyers for that.
Yeah.
And then after that, you back in the studio, or you taking time out for friends and family?
I think we have about a month, but it looks like we're going on tour in America at the end of January with Alter Bridge.
Oh, nice one.
So we had toured with Slash in The Conspirators with Miles Kennedy, and we became friends with Miles, and I think it's through him, because he sings with Alter Bridge as well, that I think the agents have a touch with him, but us being friends with Miles, it kind of made that one happen. So
yeah. Now, going back to the overall sound, I said before, I was saying earlier, I was listening to your back catalogue before I came out, both your EPs and your album. And I said to you earlier, I'm picking up lots of sort of like you mentioned, like Zeppelin, sort of like Deep Purple, but also some of the more obscure bands, Uriah Heep, Atomic Rooster.
Yes.
Even ever heard of Stray?
No, I haven't.
A British band from the 70s. They sound a bit like you,
Yeah.
You said about coming back to the old school rock and roll. Do you think this is a kind of rediscovering of the younger generation, including yourselves, of the classic music of the past? Or is it just the case of this stuff has never gone away? It's always been there, and every so often it's going to stick its head up and wave,
Yeah, that's what I hope for, because us being old rock and rollers, I know specifically John, our singer, his dad is a crazy record collector, and he loves all that old 70s British rock.
But ask him if he's got any Stray when you get back. Yeah?
I will. There's a good chance he does, because John knows all of those bands, and he's always introducing us to check out this song by this old band and stuff. So to us, we were always conscious of those bands, and I still listen to all that old stuff way more than I listen to anything new. So it's been conscious in our minds as far as trying to bring it back to the masses. That's not part of our design, but we hope the masses embrace it.
Yeah. So how are you finding the differences between European and Canadian audiences?
Well, in Canada, we've developed a lot more. We've toured many times, and we have a solid fan base of our own. Coming here is like going back in time in Canada when we were still a new band. So it's hard to gauge it because we've spent so much time working on Canada and growing it, and now we're brand new here. So it's definitely different because we're still making new fans here.
Well, I mean, I think you do all right, because, I mean, there's a lot of sort of stuff coming out of Europe in that kind of old-school rock and roll stoner, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
Yeah.
So if there's an audience for that, I'm thinking of bands like Trucker Diablo, fantastic band out of Belfast. You ever come across that?
No.
Check them out, they're
Cool.
superb, yeah? Where do you see Monster Truck, say, 5, 10, 15 years down the line, or don't you think that far ahead?
Oh my goodness. We do, but it's all speculation. It all depends on how things go in the next while. We're really concentrating right now on getting this album out to as many people as we can and seeing how many fans we can make, and then we'll gauge where to go from there after that. But of course, ambitious as we could think, we would love to be in stadiums everywhere.
Yeah, give us an ambition. What would be your dream if the manager sort of burst in the door now and said, "Hey guys, I've got you this gig"? What would be your ideal gig?
We always dream about playing at a football stadium in Buenos Aires, because there was that AC/DC DVD of the Black Ice tour,
Yeah.
and they had the big train, and so we watched that DVD and saw the football stadium full of people singing along to them, and we thought, that's got to be the pinnacle of rock and roll, is playing football stadium in South America.
Well, I can see that coming, because you have got a very catchy songwriting thing. I mean, I've got one of your songs at the moment, Righteous Smoke, embedded in my head. Yeah, since I only played it once, and it's stuck in there. You know, that drum beat beginning, yeah?
Yeah.
You playing that one tonight?
I don't know. I wonder whose turn it is to make up the set list. If it's mine, I'll put it in there.
Okay, good. So you make your set this up on the fly, do you, or?
We do. We rotate. Each of the guys gets a night. So every 4 nights we pick our own. And right now, this tour, we're trying to play every song that we have, because when we get to Canada and do the headliner, we want to be able to play every song every night. So
Excellent. Well, I think that's about it. Thanks for your time, Bob.
thank you, John.
And I'll look forward to catching your set. And yeah. Have a blast, enjoy the rest of the tour, and next time you're back in Bristol, look us up, maybe come in the studio, do an acoustic session or something.
Yeah, you know what I should mention about that? We are coming back to UK in March.
Excellent, which will make, well, I shall see what I can make happen.
Yeah, I believe it's, I think it's with classic rock, Lords of the Rift tour, maybe it might be called.
I've heard about that,
I
yeah.
think Scorpion Child might be the headline band.
Oh, dear. I'll definitely be at that one. If you're anywhere within the area, I'll be there.
There you go, John.
Thank you very much.
Take care, man.